In the winter of 2009, a phone rang in a quiet Ohio suburb. The clock read exactly 3:07 a.m. When the homeowner finally answered, he heard a low, heavily distorted voice push through the static. It said simply, "Help me." The man on the receiving end was Daniel Harper. 32 years old, he lived alone on the snowy outskirts of town and worked the night shift as a hospital IT technician. His life followed a strict, mundane routine: come home late, eat, watch television, and sleep. On Tuesday night, that routine broke. Daniel had just fallen asleep when the phone woke him. Groggy and confused, he accepted the call. Instead of an immediate response, he heard a sound like an old radio struggling to catch a signal before the voice finally spoke. Daniel's house was a fortress of suburban isolation, locked and miles away from the city center. Yet a stranger's voice had reached directly into his pitch-black bedroom. The phone had effectively punctured his security, making the silence of his own home feel fragile and porous. The escalation happened exactly 24 hours later. On Wednesday night at 3:07 a.m., the phone rang again. The static was gone. This time, Daniel heard slow, uneven breathing. Then the distorted voice spoke his name before asking for help and disconnecting. Daniel tried to apply logic to the situation. He assumed he was dealing with a prankster or a neighbor with a grudge. On Thursday morning, he pulled up his device's call logs, intending to trace the number and identify the source. When he dialed the unknown number back, he didn't reach a person. Instead, an automated network message played, stating that the phone number did not exist. This created an isolation paradox. Daniel was physically alone in a secure location, but he was targeted by an entity that bypassed the standard rules of the telecommunications grid. He had no way to trace the origin, and no way to block the signal. By Thursday night, Daniel stopped trying to sleep. He sat up in bed, eyes locked on the clock as it ticked from 3:05 to 3:06 to 3:07 a.m. Right on schedule, the phone rang. He answered immediately. The heavy breathing from the previous night was gone. In its place, Daniel heard the faint, distinct sound of slow, deliberate footsteps walking across a wooden floor. The entity on the line whispered, "I'm inside." Daniel vaulted out of bed and threw on every light switch. He tore through the house, testing every deadbolt and checking every window. The house was exactly as he left it, empty and sealed. He installed an automatic audio recording app on his phone for Friday night. At 3:07 a.m., he answered the call in total silence. The voice on the other end didn't ask for help. It simply whispered, "You found it." Daniel had not actually found anything yet, but the caller's response confirmed the geography of the threat. It wasn't reaching out from the cellular network. It was broadcasting from the architecture itself. Friday morning, Daniel spent the daylight hours obsessively searching his living spaces. He checked inside cabinets, under the bed, and behind heavy furniture. He found no evidence of an intruder. Then his attention turned to the unfinished basement. As he crept down the narrow wooden stairs, the air felt thicker, and the temperature dropped sharply against his skin. Under the glow of a single dim bulb, Daniel spotted a section of the concrete wall with fresh, uneven paint. He grabbed a heavy tool, cracked the paneling open, and extracted an old, dirt-covered box hidden inside the wall. Inside the box sat a broken phone, a set of keys, and a thick stack of Polaroids. Daniel's hands shook as he looked through them. Every photograph was taken from inside his house. Several showed Daniel himself, asleep and vulnerable in his own bed. At the very bottom of the box, he found a folded piece of paper. He opened it and read a single handwritten warning. "If you're reading this, it's already too late." The basement functioned as an observation post. A predator had been living inches from Daniel's bed, documenting his routines and waiting for the moment he finally looked behind the wall. Daniel stood frozen under the flickering basement bulb. After reading the note, absolute silence fell over the room. Then, the phone in his pocket vibrated. The screen illuminated the dark basement with the words, "Unknown number." It was 3:07 a.m. As Daniel answered the call, the sound waves of the digital audio and the physical impact on the stairs began to merge. Every vibration from the phone speaker coincided perfectly with the floorboards creaking on the staircase behind him.
Daniel turned around. A tall shadow stood on the stairs, just beyond the reach of the basement light. The voice spoke aloud, not from the phone, but from the darkness, telling him that he wasn't supposed to find the hidden space. The horror wasn't a home invasion, it was a substitution.
By mimicking Daniel's voice and tracking his every move, the entity had effectively cleared a space for itself to step into Daniel's life. By the next afternoon, the house sat quietly in the daylight. Every door was perfectly intact, but Daniel Harper had vanished. Officers moved through the empty house and found Daniel's smartphone abandoned on the basement floor, its recording software still active. Investigators retrieved the final audio file. They heard heavy breathing, followed by Daniel's shaking voice asking, "Who are you?" The entity replied in a voice identical to Daniel's own, matching his pitch and tone perfectly. It said, "I'm you." The police never closed the case. Even today, neighbors report strange occurrences near the property. Occasionally, at exactly 3:07 a.m., a phone rings inside the vacant house. If someone calls Daniel's old number, a voice sometimes answers with a faint whisper, asking for help. The 3:07 a.m. calls continue today. They function as a persistent sorting algorithm, testing the residents of the suburbs until another door is left unlocked or another basement reveals its secrets.
If you enjoyed this nightmare, subscribe to Mr. Half Night for more horror stories and